There's something incredible about The Lord of the Rings. A timelessness found in both the books and films that seems to be unrivaled by the quality of any other work. And what truly makes these stories unforgettable is their themes, or rather, the way in which these themes are teased out. Tolkien, and Peter Jackson after him, touch on the themes of heroism, brotherhood, friendship, and, of course, masculinity and femininity. And in this video, I wanted to take a closer look at the masculine myth in The Lord of the Rings, to explore exactly how it encapsulates men's experience and shows the audience how to be one. When analyzing stories, it's easy to get lost in vagaries and undefined terms. And yet, the greatest stories, the ones worth truly analyzing, often do not present clear definitions. Complex truths cannot simply be translated into a sermon or a dissertation. And so, through stories, the author grasps at concepts they know, but do not truly understand. And The Lord of the Rings is no different. So, instead of looking at the definitions of masculinity and awkwardly applying them to The Lord of the Rings itself, in this video, we're going to start with the story itself and try to extract a framework within which we can understand the concepts portrayed. To look at masculinity and the three states in which it is represented in The Lord of the Rings, namely, the roles of brother, father, and king. In the last 15 years, it's not uncommon to see articles, videos, and essays which present Sam and Frodo's relationship as a homosexual one.
The Lord of the Rings feels gayer than a communist propaganda poster.
Even the actors themselves have gone so far as to suggest the possibility of such an idea.
Are Frodo and Sam in love? Like, did you play them as if they were in love?
100%. I mean, yeah.
And ignoring the devout Catholicism of Tolkien and the lack of textual evidence to support this theory, what's most frustrating about this interpretation is what it trivializes: the concept of platonic love, of brotherhood.
What are we holding on to, Sam? There's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
It seems that people prefer to pretend that unromantic love without sex appeal does not exist at all, when, in reality, it is one of the most selfless forms of love. A kind of love where nothing is given in return. A love that, ironically, requires confidence in one's own masculine image to express. And regardless of what the internet may say, the platonic love that exists between Sam and Frodo plays a central role in both of their character arcs. Without Sam's friendship, Frodo would not have survived the Ringwraith's blade, Shelob's lair, or, of course, the treacherous journey up the volcanic slopes of Mount Doom.
Come on, Mr. Frodo. I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Come on!
But let's go back to the beginning for a second. At the start of the Fellowship, Frodo accepts the burden of the ring out of duty to society. But Sam is almost incapable of thinking that big. In fact, they approach their mission from almost opposite angles. Frodo understands that the ring must be destroyed to save Middle-earth and all of his friends, while Sam goes on the journey because he loves his friend, Frodo. And this idea of masculine brotherhood is seen throughout the entire story of The Lord of the Rings. While some complain about the story's minority of female characters, I think the focus on male characters is an intentional one. Tolkien was exploring the concept of brotherhood. It's interesting to note that the Fellowship itself is also an example. A group of unlikely dwarves, hobbits, men, and elves joined together by a common cause, who, despite their personal disagreements throughout the story, form a bond of friendship that never fades.
We will not abandon Merry and Pippin to torment and death. Not while we have strength left.
The actions of Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli following the capture of Merry and Pippin show this bond, as do the circumstances of Boromir's death. In the films, at least, Boromir's sacrifice, his absolution for the sin of attacking Frodo and falling to the temptation of the ring, is a declaration of brotherhood. He throws himself into the battle with the Uruk-hai to protect Merry and Pippin. And in his final moments, he even puts aside his differences with Aragorn, diminishing his father's authority and title, and recognizing Aragorn as his brother and king.
My captain. My king.
Which brings me to the relationship between Boromir and Faramir. While they don't interact in the books, they are biological brothers, and regardless of their father's attempts to divide them, they do love one another. In fact, their mutual love is reinforced by several lines in the books and films. Faramir and Boromir, much like Sam and Frodo, are two sides of the same coin. Boromir is blunt, stubborn, and courageous. He seeks glory, not for himself, but for the people of Gondor. And he strives to fit into the heroic mold that his father has made for him. Like Denethor, he wishes to use the ring and its powers against Sauron. He is caught thinking like a warrior, concerned more with courage than with wisdom, and more with power than philosophy. But unlike his father, he embraces hope.
She spoke of my father and the fall of Gondor. She said to me, even now there is hope left.
Faramir, on the other hand, is a bit more cautious. Despite the constant threat that Mordor imposes on the borders of Gondor, he is more than a warrior. He has spent time reading the lores and educating himself. He understands the nature of evil and of Sauron, and he is wise beyond his years. And while he may suffer for his desire of his father's love, he does not share his father's flaws. Which is why, in the books at least, the ring does not pose a temptation to him. Together, these brothers, these sons of Denethor, would have made a balanced pair. An embodiment of platonic love, just like Frodo and Sam. Just like the Fellowship. But unlike the two previous examples, Boromir and Faramir remain divided. Not through their own fault, but through that of their father. Which brings me to the next chapter of this video, the concept of fatherhood. When thinking of father figures in The Lord of the Rings, two men immediately come to mind, Denethor and Theoden. And while they're not the only fathers in the trilogy, they play prominent roles. In Denethor and Theoden, we have a steward and a king, a man of Gondor and a man of Rohan. They represent the two remaining powers of the race of men, the two remaining kingdoms left to face Sauron and the forces of evil. And more personally, these two fathers have suffered the same loss: the death of a son. In the narrative, both men face a temptation to succumb to overwhelming grief and despair, even in the face of impending doom. Denethor responds to Boromir's death with increased scrutiny of his son, Faramir.
I do not think we should so lightly abandon the outer defenses. Defenses that your brother long held intact.
After all, while Boromir may have had his own faults, it was Denethor who challenged him to fit into this mold of the hero of Gondor. He attempts to make his son into something that he's not, potentially out of false pride and in defense of his failed claim as steward of Gondor. And of course, his treatment of Faramir is no better. In his grief over Boromir's death, he sends his only remaining son to his doom. Even after Faramir rides off to battle at his father's command, Denethor continues to despair. He presumes that Sauron has won, that Frodo has lost the ring, and in his final moments, attempts to burn both himself and his son, Faramir, alive. Even while Boromir was still living, we get hints that Denethor is this proud and spiteful man, jealous and always afraid that his power will be challenged. And once he has given in to his despair, his pride only rears its ugly head all the more. Because of it, and his grief for Boromir, he fails his remaining son and the people of Gondor. Theoden, on the other hand, has a different end. At the news of his son's death, he too falls into a deep despair. And his reason corrupted by Wormtongue's lies and the greater influence of Saruman, he ignores the needs of his people and sits idly on his throne. In his reduced state, he even approves the exile of his sister's son Eomer, a move suggested by Wormtongue because of Eomer's righteous resistance.
You see much, Eomer, son of Eomer. Too much.
But unlike Denethor, when Gandalf presents him a message of hope, Theoden becomes receptive to the truth. He acknowledges his folly, corrects his behavior, and returns to his duties with a newfound energy. He literally takes up his sword and recommits himself to the defense of his people. Though it's only shown in the films, the implication is that this action is a direct response to his son's death. Theoden chose to face the threat of the Uruk-hai. He chose to put aside his grief to protect those who still look to him for paternal leadership. For his niece, his nephew, and for his people. Theoden not only embodies fatherhood, but also kingship. It's no mistake that Aragorn, one of the clearest literary examples of a heroic masculine character, is the promised king of Gondor. And, of course, the title character of the third and final book. He's kind, gentle, brave, and widely considered to be the embodiment of peak masculinity. And I would venture to suggest that that role as king has as much to do with this critical acclaim. While in the books, he practically starts his journey as a king already, simply waiting for the logistics to fall into place, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to primarily focus on the film version of Aragorn. Because in this version, it's easier to see how he becomes the perfect king, instead of him just being one. It's interesting to note that throughout the trilogy, Aragorn goes through several stages of leadership. He starts as a man on his own, a lone wolf who aids a group of hobbits in their time of need. He then joins the Fellowship at the Council of Elrond, following Gandalf's leadership on the journey to Mount Doom. And when the Fellowship is broken, he finally accepts the role of a leader. After Boromir's death, he not only dons the gauntlets of his people, but leads Gimli and Legolas in a rescue mission. Until finally, wielding the reforged sword of his forefathers, he leads the armies of Gondor and of all men to the Black Gates as their commander and king. Masculinity is linked with this kingship in a unique way, because kings are defined by not bloodlust or recklessness, but courage for a higher cause. A king must be willing to sacrifice himself, not just for his family or his tribe, but for his people and the greater good of his kingdom. And this is something we see Aragorn gradually learn throughout the trilogy. First with Boromir.
Have you ever seen it, Aragorn? The white tower of Ecthelion, glimmering like a spike of pearl and silver. Its banners caught high in the morning breeze.
Then with Theoden.
What would you have me do? Look at my men. Their courage hangs by a thread. If this is to be our end, then I would have them make such an end as to be worthy of remembrance.
And finally, on the eve of battle itself, with Elrond.
Put aside the ranger. Become who you are born to be.
Here, not only does Aragorn realize the importance of kingship to his people, he becomes that, whether he truly believes it or not. And Aragorn, by taking up his role as king, helps us to understand this role of masculinity. He is not a tyrant. He sees the crown as a burden representative of duty and wears it for the greater good, not for the sake of power or control. It's the reason why, despite the fact that Tolkien did not provide a detailed account of his reign after the book's end, we can trust that Aragorn was a good king.
And it's easy to type, he ruled wisely and well. But then you start asking yourself, what does that constitute, ruling wisely and well? I mean, what was his tax policy? How did the economy function, under him? Did he encourage trade? Did he discourage it?
We don't need to be told about his tax policies or what he did with the remaining orcs, because we understand his moral compass and the purity of his purpose. The power of storytelling is unrivaled. And whether the story was told through the images of a film or the pages of a book, everyone can think of a great work that has truly transformed them, for better or for worse. Lord of the Rings is one of these great works. It reveals truths about ourselves that we don't fully understand. It awakens within us a desire to do good instead of simply preaching about it. And it shows us what it truly means to be a man. What it means to be a brother, a father, and a king. And as always, no matter what you do, keep reading, keep writing, and I will see you all in the next video.